The very first thing I want you to do for the character creation is you have to determine what it's going to be, or what he's going to be, or what she's going to be. You have to come up with some answers as to how this character is going to look, and you have to do it all on your own. This is just a little guide to help you in that process, and feel free to stop the video while you're thinking about these things, and in class I'll give you some time to really think about it. But think about the gender. For all of the options, I have none, and remember, this is a basic guide, so this is just to, if you're having a really hard time thinking, I know that some of you will already know everything, but some of you won't. So if you're really having a hard time coming up with something, ask yourself these questions. What's the gender of your character? You have none, male, female, and other. None because it doesn't have to be male or female. Other because it could be transgender, whatever. It's your character. It could be insectoid, it could be an alien, you know, that's completely up to you. The head, is it humanoid? Is it animal-like? Is it mythical? Or is it other? Other is something that's maybe not here, and that's, you're going to see that for every single number. The arms, are the humanoid, animal-like, mythical, other. Legs, so on and so forth. I'm not just going to keep repeating this. So this is actually really important. You need to stop and think about this. And once you have the answer to some of these questions, then you can move forward. I've already thought about it for the sake of the video, because I wanted to make this a video as efficient as possible. So since I've thought about it already, I'm going to go ahead and share you guys what I've been thinking about. And I'm just going to underline what I've chosen for this particular category. So as far as gender, it's male. Head is animal-like. Arms, they're humanoid. So once you start underlining, or once you choose, then add more specifics. So for the head is animal-like, I actually want a skull. And animal-like because I want a deer skull. I think you spelled deer, D-E-R. Yeah. And I want it to have antlers. For the arms, I know that I want 4 arms. By the way, you're not copying me here. Let me repeat that. You are not copying me. This video is just a guide to help you, or to show you the process that I go through when I create an original character. So the head, it's going to be a deer skull with antlers. The arms, I want 4 arms, and I want them to be humanoid. The legs, I've thought that I want the legs to be mythical. And my character, I was thinking, would be like the protector of the forest or something like that. So mythical, and I'm not sure how to spell this. Let me actually look it up on my phone. I know it said satyr. Excuse me while I look this up. And get used to the idea of looking things up, because this project is all about looking up things. Satyr, yeah. So let me see if I can show you on my phone. This is a satyr, half man, half, I don't know, deer or something. And that's what I wanted for my feet, or my legs. And you spell that S-A-T-Y-R. Again, that's mythical and satyr. Shirt, none. If you want any type of armor, you just look for references that represent that armor. If you just want regular clothing or tights, you look for clothing or tights. Like if you're gonna have a Superman-like character, you'd have to create your own symbol for that character, but he could wear tights. Pants, Satyrs are kind of just naked, so I think this would be none as well. Feet, shoes, none. Or other. Hooves, right? I don't know how to spell hooves, you guys. Let's just leave it like that. Accessories, yes. My character is going to have weapons. Which weapons? I already know that it's going to be a staff and a sword. And a cape. I know that my character is going to wear a cape. Pets, a bird. It's going to be kind of a mythical bird, phoenix-like. And next, sketch a pose using shapes, then find a reference for every single one of your responses. So let's go ahead and move on to the next phase of this. We are going to start thinking about the pose. I more or less have an idea in my head of what I want to do. And just like you've been doing with your shapes, this is what the shapes are for. I just want to make sure that it looks the way I intended to on camera. So this is a sketch, so it doesn't have to be perfect right now, or it doesn't have to be perfect ever actually. I know that I want the head here. I'm going to do a circle for the chest, and then for the abdomen, shaped like this. Now the satyr has some funny legs. I have to really think about it as far as how the legs are going to look. And from my own personal experience, I more or less have an idea. But before that, I'm going to put like 2 circles where the buns would be, the butt. The satyr's legs would come down. This would be a knee. Let me start making these lines a little bit darker so you can see them. But don't do your lines so dark when you're doing this step. I'm just making it darker so you can see it for the camera. And this first sketch doesn't have to be the last sketch. I'm gonna try to make it my last sketch for the sake of this video. But like I said, I've been thinking about this a lot and I actually practiced before. And I want 4 arms. You want circles for all the joints. Just to give you an idea, this is how the arm is going to be. And I will, do a little bit more detail here in a second. My table's a bit bumpy, so whatever, it doesn't matter. And then the other arm. So that's going to be the basic outline. I did say I was going to turn off the TV. Wait 1 second. It's going to be the basic outline for my character. I've already thought about the pose and everything. If you don't get this right away, that's fine. Just think about different poses, and sometimes you think you're going to make something and that it's going to look cool, and then you actually try it out and it doesn't look cool. So, change it up if you feel like, no, that's not the way I thought it would be. Lastly, oh yeah, I said that I wanted a bird. So I want the bird to be perched on this hand. Down a bit. Remember that bird has a beak, wings, tail. For the hands, it depends what the hand is doing, but you do like a basic shape for the hands. Since I've thought about this so much, I know exactly what I want my hands to be doing. Oh, the weapons. So here, for instance, I want him to be holding a sword. That's pretty broad. And on this hand, I want there to be a staff. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this other arm hold the staff as well. I think that'll add an interesting twist to it. Okay, now once you have it at this step, I wouldn't do the cape at this step because the cape is fluid and you can't just break it down into shapes because the shape of it can change all the time. Once you have it down to this, now it's time to start looking for your references. So I'm going to look for my references off camera, then I'm going to come back, show you all of my references, and we'll start drawing one by one. Okay, I'm back and I've actually looked up all of my references. I printed them out for the sake of the video, but for you guys, obviously you can't print it out. But I recommend looking up the references on your phone and just saving the pictures. So, one of the first references that I have is I printed out a deer skull. I don't know if you can see that. I printed out this one actually. And I'll show you the printout. This is what I'm going to use to draw my head. And let me see if I could do it with both in the shot. I do want it to be at an angle, and this is how you're going to use your references. So and by the way, when you do this the first time, you know, it's not always going to be right. It might not be the right size, but if you can at least draw everything, and I stop occasionally because I'm looking at my reference. If you can draw everything, then you can change the size later once you have something to work with. To be honest with you guys, I'm not convinced with these teeth. So I don't know if I'm going to leave those teeth in. But I might. Make some teeth here. It doesn't look too bad. I'm going to darken the eye. And I'm just going to erase some of my lines right now from the original circle. See, that's not too bad. The next reference, because I wanted this character to have antlers, so I'm going to use these antlers right here. And I'm going to, wait, I still have a little bit of my original circle showing through here. I'm going to use these antlers and I'm going to draw antlers on my character. Let me zoom in so you get a better look. The reference is right below. Look at your reference carefully. I want these to be like, you know, I spaced out a bit so it looks a bit cooler. So I might stretch it out. Remember that you don't have to follow your references 100%. They're just there as a guide. So I am gonna like maybe stretch it out just a little bit. See how that goes. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I don't know. These antlers are a bit complicated, so I'm just gonna simplify it just a little bit. And instead of doing so many, I'm just gonna do 3. And again, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pretend like this one doesn't exist, and I'm gonna push these 2 up, and then I'll do this one in the back. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So now moving on to the other side. And I'm gonna kind of do the same thing. So we'll have it be symmetrical. Not perfectly symmetrical. Make sure that you guys can see. And I'm gonna straighten this paper out just. Let me see. There, that's not too bad. I'm not gonna put the line over here. Yeah. So there's the head more or less of what I was looking for. I think the head might be too big compared to the body, but we'll see. Let me go back to my skull, because I think that this should be separated here. So I'm gonna separate that like that. That means I've got to make my eye a little bit smaller. Alright, go back to my list and see what the next thing was. 4 arms. So on the list, I know that he had 4 arms, and here on my sketch, he has 4 arms. And I looked up some references for all of these arms. Sometimes your references, you find what you can. You don't always find exactly what you need. But for this particular one, I think I got a good one. And I'm gonna just use this arm to help me draw. And I want my character to be a bit more muscular than the man in this image. So I'm gonna bulge out these muscles a bit. And from my own personal knowledge, I know that there's a tricep back here. And I'm gonna make sure that the forearm is bulging a bit more. Put a little bit more definition on the muscles. And I actually have a reference for this hand as well. So now that my arm is somewhat in, I'm going to start erasing some of the guides. When I was looking for a reference for this bird, you have to be specific when searching, because you want to get as close as you can to what it is that you're looking for. And it just so happens that I found a hand to go along with it. You could take it as far as putting the glove. Needless to say, sometimes you have to change your original, shapes. So I think I'm gonna have to change this a bit. And that's fine. There's gonna be a lot of erasing. It's just part of the process. Now that I have a reference, I can make it look more like my reference. Start with the hand first. Hands are tough. Make sure you find good references for your hands. And he's wearing a glove. The thumb is kind of straight out. Sometimes it helps if you use your own hand. So, use your own hand as a reference. And then that means that just looking at my hand, that the other part of the hand is going to start here. Meaning my character's got some massive hands. That's okay. It's your character, so it doesn't have to make perfect sense. So for this right here, just make like a box. So I was saying, if you're using your own hand as a reference, for these 4 fingers, just make a box. You could curve it for 4 fingers, 2, 3, 4. And that curves one more time. And you can put a little nail in. But I kind of want them to have little claws. Alright, I think that's pretty good. You can put a little wrinkle here, and then some wrinkles here for the thumb. Now, let's go ahead and redo the shapes for our bird. And don't get into too much detail here, and don't worry about shading at this point. Oh man, I have to make sure that I have enough space for his legs. So maybe it's a good idea to start from the legs. See here. And then that means that the head would be up here. And I think this is a pretty cool bird. We have a wing over here. This is part of the body. The other wing. And some tail feathers. I did say I wanted this to be like a phoenix, so maybe I'll make these tail feathers just a little bit longer. I don't know what a phoenix looks like or how this would be a phoenix. Maybe it needs a little bit of, you know, a few feathers up here. Maybe that'll make it look more like a phoenix. I think so. So that's not too bad. Let's go ahead and I'm drawing very dark, by the way, for you guys so you could see it on the camera. But now I'm going to erase a little bit and draw the talons. And I'm not an expert at this, I don't do this all the time, but draw something like this. And you're not going to be able to see every detail of every single little thing, so let's say that maybe these talons are inside the hand. And I'm going to go ahead and erase some of my guide over here. And just because I feel like it, I'm going to add just a few more feathers, and I'm going to make these feathers a little bit sharper. And I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to erase some of my guide. So far we have an arm, we have the head, which I described as the skull, the deer antlers. We need a body, we need the other arms. So let me check, well, we were on the arms. So let me check some of my references for the other arms. For this one, some of you recognize this character as Whitebeard from One Piece. And I just like the way he was holding this. And since I have my character holding a staff, I might just use this arm for both of these arms. And I know a little bit about, you know, anatomy, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to draw this. I actually think I have another reference of somebody with muscles. Go through my references. I have this guy that I want to use for the body, but I could also use this just to see how some of the muscles are. And I'm going to turn this a bit, and he's also holding something, so it works. Except my character's arm is turning a little bit more. So I'm going to use both of these actually. And yeah. I do want it to be similar to the other arm. So I'm going to keep that other arm in sight because I don't want them to be too different. Big bulging bicep. We have a very well defined tricep, a strong form there, and this is curving quite a bit because it does represent the muscle on the other side. Sorry you guys, I realized I was just off camera. So I'm doing the other arm. I did a bulging bicep, tricep, curve here, and then this is the muscle in the forearm. And I think that's pretty good. And then I'm gonna use my reference over here with Whitebeard. I'm gonna take a good look at that hand to see how I should do my hand going around a staff. And that reference has the thumb going like this. My hand should be a little bit different. Not completely like it because they're different. And your references are just meant to be used as guides, you know. You don't want to copy it. You don't want to plagiarize. I don't like this curving as much, so I'm just not gonna make it curve. Am I on camera? I think I am on camera. Let me zoom in so you guys can get a better look. So I try to curve it to show the tips of the fingers, but I'm not gonna curve it. I didn't like how it looked. And if you don't like the way something looks, you know, try to do it a different way. And this part we shouldn't see because the stick or staff should be overlapping it. Originally I had both of these arms holding the staff. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it that way. I don't know. I'm gonna put a little line over here to represent this muscle. So far I'm pretty happy with this. I might just make this arm not hold this staff and just maybe foreshorten it a little bit. Foreshortening is when something is coming out at you. So let's say if the arm was like cocked back, kind of like my finger, so you wouldn't be able to see the whole thing. So I do want it to be in a fist. So I'm just gonna copy the muscles of this one because they're more or less the same. And I'm just gonna make a fist with this one. And that's very similar to the one right above it. Erase the extras, all the guides. And the little wrinkles and things are important when you're doing hands and things like that. This is, I want to do a little curve here to show that it's, you know, cocked back. All right, now I'm gonna do this arm. Let me see. I'm going to use my guy over here as a reference for this arm. I can't, you know, you should be able to see your reference and your drawing at all times. I can't have them both on camera, so I'm going to have that off camera, and I'm just going to keep my drawing on camera so you guys can see it. For this hand, I've got my little reference of Zelda. So you see, I try to come up with references for absolutely everything. And this particular hand, you wouldn't be able to see too much of the fingers. So it would just be 4 knuckles, and then the thumb is actually on the other side of this, so this hand is not, it's not too difficult to do. And I think that looks great. So erase your shapes. We don't need this circle to be full, but we want to keep a little bit of that circle to show some definition. All right, now we have the head, we have the arms. Now I want to see what's next on my list. For the arms, we have the legs. All right, the legs, since I'm doing a mythical creature, is, you know, just a little bit different. I do have my reference for it. You need a reference for everything. Reference is a bit hard to see. Oh no, you can see it okay on camera. So I'm using that, and I'm gonna lighten these lines. You already saw them, so lighten these lines. Because the reason I'm gonna lighten those lines is because I just want to show that there's some hair there. So I'm gonna change the edge a bit to show that this is kind of like hairy. So am I on camera? Yes, I am. So I'm gonna start making kind of zigzags, best way I could describe it, to show that there's hair there. And I'm just following my line that I had made originally. You don't want these lines to connect, but you do want this one to go back, and you can see that in the reference. Just look at your references carefully. And that's gonna come down. And right here by the toe, I didn't copy it exactly from my reference, but I like what they did. They made like 2, am I still on camera? Made 2 sharp, I don't even know what these are called, toenails, claws, I guess. And I want just a little line here to show that these are 2. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with that. Over here on this side, same thing. Let me lighten the line a bit. And I'm going to start making my squiggly lines to represent hair. Curve it around here. Curve this back a bit. You could see more of this one. So, well, I'm assuming that, look at a deer or a horse. That back part, I'm not going to make it too hairy. I want it to be a little bit more sleek. And the feet too. Don't make the feet too hairy. Just a little bit quick. And we're going to go ahead and give him 2 claws over here also. You guys please remember that your purpose here is not to copy me. You see the 2 claws? Use your reference as a guide and come up with your own character. Okay, and my reference has, I don't know what this is, a little piece of clothing. I think I'm not gonna put clothing on my guy. So he's gonna stay in the buff. What's next, now that the legs are done? The legs, satyr. The shirt, none. But I do have to think about the upper body, even though I don't have a shirt. I do have my reference for my upper body, which is my strong guy. So I'm gonna use this guy to give my guy some muscles. collarbone. Am I on camera? Yes, I am. I'm not going to go through all the trouble of making all these little detailed abs. But I do want abs, but just maybe a little bit different than my reference. We do want this to be sleek here. My character seems to be a little bit more, just a bit bigger than my reference, you know. Under the armpits, I'm going to shade a bit. And there's also kind of a muscle back there. Okay, back to the body. I'm going to separate. I want maybe to see a little bit of the ribs. Can you see some of his ribs? Yeah, you can see his obliques, I guess that's what that's called. So I guess these are some of the obliques here. And this is going to let my character showcase those abs. Okay, so I just outlined the ribs a bit. My character's body is a little different than the reference. I erased some of my guiding shapes. I did the pecs. And now I am going to draw some abs here. Actually, I'm used to drawing abs from when I was younger. I used to like to draw superheroes and things like that. So I'm gonna draw abs kind of like I used to when I was younger. I can still look at the reference, but I want this to be a bit more cartoony. I don't want it to be as realistic. And so abs like this are great. If you want them to be more realistic, hey, by all means, you know, draw them more realistic. But I'm actually really happy with that. And I think this arm is coming out too much. It needs to be right there. Show some of these ribs. Some obliques here. So we have the head, we have the body, we have the arms, we have the staff, we have the bird. What's next? Pants, we took care of that. Feet, we took care of that. We have hooves, accessories, weapons. We have a cape, we have a staff, and we have a sword. So let's just take this time. This staff I'm absolutely okay with. Could be a little bit straighter. If you have a ruler, want to use a ruler, it's fine. If it's not perfectly straight, that's fine too. It just maybe came from a piece of wood that wasn't straight. And the staff is pretty basic. I didn't look for a reference for staff, so just draw a stick. The sword, I wasn't too concerned with the sword. If you guys have a sword in your character, then you could look up a specific sword that you want your character to wield. I'm just gonna darken what I have. I am gonna make it a bit thinner though, because I think that the one I did originally was too wide. And that's it for my weapons. What's next? Pets, already did the bird. cape. So I need a cape now. For the cape, I actually got this Spawn. It's a female Spawn, and you know the Spawn's cape, if you're familiar with the comic Spawn or the video, it's a really cool cape, and I liked it. So you could constantly pull on things that you just see in your life, or things that you know from memory. And of course, I need to have that in the background while I do the cape, so you guys can see the drawing. So this all looks a bit awkward here, so first of all, I'm gonna give them 2 little circles where the cape is gonna hold on to, what it's holding on to. I don't know. Does that really matter? I don't know. I'm gonna darken the mouth, and that makes it look a lot better. And I'm gonna darken underneath the neck because it's kind of like a little bit awkward right now. And darken here. And all these places it's okay to darken, like the joints usually, well, not that one, but the joints are a bit obscured because of the shadow falling one way or another. And I'm gonna start my cape. Doesn't have to be exactly like Spawn or anything like it. Just when you're making little curves here and there, it helps to have something to look at. I don't even know what this is right here. So I guess that's part of the shoulder. Yeah, I guess that's part of the shoulder. I made it there. Now using my reference, I know that it overlaps, you know, in some places. Now it feels like the other side is just way too small compared to that side. So I'm gonna make it a bit bigger. Yeah, that feels better. And that's gonna go around the back. The cape should follow some type of natural flow. So this, imagine that it's behind the arm, and it's gonna go up here. And Spawn has all his, or this one, she has all her, you know, little bits of cape. They're kind of broken at the end. It's not a perfect cape. And my reference is actually a painting, so I'm not gonna, I think it's a painting. It's either a digital painting or something. I'm not gonna follow it exactly. I'm just looking at the little curves to help me whenever I wanna whenever I wanna curve this thing. And it's a cape. You don't have to concern yourself too much whether it looks right or not. I mean, you can't go wrong. You can't really go wrong with a cape. I don't want the cape to go beyond the foot here, because you know, if it goes beyond, then the whole illusion is screwed up. So you want to make sure that the feet are lower than the cape. Well, if you even have a cape, just pay attention to your references. I'm kind of just winging it. It's so different than my reference. But that line is too straight. So maybe curve a little bit more. And there. It's enough of the cape for me. So now you can go ahead and erase all your little extra lines. What I would do, and what, you know, some anime creators and comic creators, what they do is next is they would outline this in black pen. And I might just do that, but I'm gonna do that maybe off camera if I can find a thin black Sharpie. I had one just now. I was underlining things with it, so I'll do that off camera. And when I come back, well, when you're done outlining it, then you take your eraser and you just erase all the pencil marks, and that makes it look much cleaner. You don't have to worry about the shadows right now. We haven't talked about value, so don't worry about the shadows right now. And this is pretty much what I had envisioned. I'm gonna outline it off camera and I'll be right back to show you how it looks when it's done. Here it is with black outline. And what you want to do is, once it's outlined, you want to make sure that all the pencil is erased. This pencil was just meant to act like a guide. I'm not going to provide Sharpies for you guys to do this, but if you ever want to do it in the future, it ends up producing a pretty solid character that you can, you know, use in a book or use in a story. Alright, I'm going to finish erasing off camera and then I'll do a little close-up so you guys can see the detail, and that'll be it. Hopefully you guys come up with some really cool things. Here's a tip: when you're erasing, stretch out the paper. So right here I'm stretching out the paper with these two fingers, and I'm erasing, and that's so it doesn't wrinkle on me. If you keep the tension there, it doesn't always work, but it works most of the time. And there you have it. I'm pretty satisfied with this. The bird looks a bit cartoony. I need to make it a bit meaner. Feel free to change it up if it's not working. So I'm pretty satisfied with this, and hopefully it helps you guys create something that's unique and that's yours. I mean, I borrowed a lot, I used a lot of references, but ultimately this is mine. So this is a bunch of pieces put together to create this character. If you want, you can name your character. If you feel comfortable enough to start shading, you can start shading. Little touch-ups here and there. We haven't talked about shading, so if you don't feel comfortable enough, don't worry about it. And I'll see you in class, guys.